I want to start this by saying that I feel Killing Floor 3 is getting a little too much hate. I don't think it's quite as bad as many are making it out to be, but in its current form, it's not a lot better either. The most important thing right now is that I am having a bit of fun. I can't speak for anyone else, but I am having a bit of fun. Right, so let's actually get into it. While I do see some nice improvements since playing it 4 months ago, I also have to ask, why was this delayed? Not that it didn't need it, because it surely did, but in its current state, Killing Floor 3 just doesn't feel quite as good as Killing Floor should. I think we should start with priorities, because I'm not sure where they were at in the development process for this game. It's not like this launch version of the game was released in early access like Killing Floor 2 in, say, early 2024. And then here we are over a year and a half later asking why it still feels very similar. Killing Floor 3 didn't have an early access moment, and maybe it should have. It was delayed and came out some months later. I'm asking, I think the entire community is asking during this time, where did your priorities truly lie? Because you don't even have simple text chat available on day one. But Tripwire made damn sure you can buy some of the in-game currency and a small handful of cosmetics on day one. You see, this is where we're at with game development in 2025. Let's talk a bit about performance. Everyone should know, anyone watching this video, you should know that on a wide variety of systems, this game is experiencing stuttering issues. Frame pacing ranges from all over the place to as smooth as can be. The game just sort of picks and chooses when it wants to give you a hard time. On my system, with a 9800X3D 5070 Ti, 64 gigs of RAM, and nothing but M.2s, on average, I'm staying between 90 and 110 FPS. That's not awful for 1440p. I would never say that that's a terrible place to be. If you just look at those numbers at 1440p from a surface level point of view, it sounds good on paper. However, I'd like to point and tell you, look at this game, guys. Look at it. Killing Floor 3 isn't ugly by any stretch, and it's easily the most impressive Killing Floor game to date. And I've laid the specs out for anyone that's trying to claim that I have a potato PC. It's not even maxed out either. I've got most things set to high, maybe a couple medium, and my reflections are screen space, not lumen. Killing Floor 2 looked pretty good at the time, but it had the unfortunate luck of releasing in an amazing year for video games. Mad Max, Metal Gear Solid 5, The Witcher 3, Batman Arkham Knight, Rise of the Tomb Raider, Dying Light, Assassin's Creed Syndicate. All of those came out that year and were far more impressive games. KF2 looked great for who it's for, which is Killing Floor fans, and I'd say Killing Floor 3 only stands slightly above that. And another problem is there are just far more impressive games that have been released from 2015 until now, and they all look and run better than this does. I won't sit here and name all of my personal favorites. Some of you that have watched my channel, you already know. And some of you also have your own personal picks. There are also more impressive Unreal Engine 5 games that run and look more appealing than this. A lot of those games don't do blood and gore effects quite as well as Killing Floor 3. I'll give credit where credit is due in that respect. Tripwire nailed the insane carnage that can take place on screen. No denying that. Body parts that are flying all over your screen, often with like a fountain of blood trail to go with them. Explosions of fire and the sudden enemy attacks that come from nowhere. All of that stuff is really cool. Some of you may hear, blood trails and explosions, carnage, and say, man, that sounds a lot like Killing Floor to me. And it is in those moments. Unfortunately, in my opinion, there are other things that make Killing Floor 3 feel a bit off. While the core gameplay loop is solid, and I am having some fun with this game, something about the way the weapons feel doesn't give me a satisfying feeling when I fire them. A lot of that joy mostly comes from the destruction that I can deal out, and some of the weapons themselves just lack weight. Also, the design of the weapons doesn't outright suck, but a lot of these are so far removed from what you may have enjoyed in KF1 and KF2. I can't even lie, I don't even know how else to put this when I say it, but some of them almost have this plastic toy look to them. I think I have a general idea of what they were going for here, and I'm not going to knock them for at least trying. Given the differences in some of the new mechanics and the design of some of the new maps, that futuristic toy look on paper probably sounded good when you're destroying these bioengineered beings. I know I can't be the only one that feels this way about the weapons. Maybe because I'm not completely sold on the design of some of these weapons, I'm telling myself not to like the way that they handle at the same time. And that can happen, but I don't think that's the case here. I believe your longtime fans, your core audience, would have preferred weapons that look more like the earlier stuff of the previous games. I will admit that some of the guns seem to feel a lot better once you start leveling skills and modding the weapons. The look of the gun, even after that, isn't affected much, so that kind of sucks just a bit. And at this point, you can also paint the current offering of guns and hang charms off of them by using the armory. Sticking with that thought process, the modding of weapons, the armory, I did like those things. The way the progression is currently being handled, I think, is solid. So you're using your skill points to upgrade your skills, obviously, when you reach certain levels. And they make dealing damage, modding your weapons, upping your defenses more interesting by adding other things like the armory. I haven't unlocked any insane mods yet. I haven't found any of that stuff. And until I'm level 15 or 20, I don't think I'll attempt the hard difficulty. The goal for myself and another buddy of mine is to reach a point where we play on Suicidal and Hell on Earth and nothing else. Oh man, how about those character models? Some of these range from decent to downright awful. I can't even, there's no way around it. Downright awful is what I'm going with here. Much like the look of many of the weapons, these character designs do not fit this universe at all, in my opinion. I'm trying to be nice too, because some of these are even worse than the weapons. I don't want to say anything about the artist who thought some of these would be a good idea and just, completely tear down their work. But if someone told me they outsourced stuff like the character design or left it in the hands of AI, I might actually believe that person. How can you play the other two games and see this universe and create characters that look like the Killing Floor 3 characters? It's unacceptable, and I don't want to hear that they're sorry. I want to hear that they will do better. It sucks that a lot of the doing better will also include in-game currency and microtransactions. It probably goes without saying, but we will never get awesome character designs in this game without paying for them, and that's just my guess. Make no mistake, that is by design, unfortunately. It is by design. All of that being said, the enemy designs are actually pretty amazing. I like them all. I seriously don't have any complaints about them whatsoever. The new look for the enemy types and all of their new abilities and animations, top notch for a Killing Floor game. No question whatsoever, unlike the weapon designs and character designs for you, the player, a good amount of time was spent making sure these enemy designs were satisfying. There are standouts, of course. I love the look of the Siren, the Scrake, and the Flesh Pound. The bosses, how about those? Yeah. It seems like for now we have a total of 3, maybe 4. I think those are well done. They're not exceptional, they're not Hans or Patriarch level, but we'll get there. I've seen people complaining about dashing and sliding, and they were calling for refunds just based on simple stuff like that alone. Listen, I'm not going to nitpick that hard, but I can understand why someone that's a longtime fan would be like, nope, no way, not my Killing Floor, bro, not doing it. That's cool, I'm just not taking it that far. I also haven't found too many situations where the dashing and sliding would prove very effective in the heat of battle, but I also probably just need to get more familiar with the game. Maybe those mechanics prove more worth your time on higher difficulty settings, I don't know. Killing Floor 3 also introduces a lot more verticality. You can leap onto many of the surfaces and use that to your advantage in some sticky situations. However, keep in mind, enemies like the Husk also like flying around and shooting you from higher places in this game. You'll be like, man, where in the hell am I being shot from? It's most likely a crawler that you missed somewhere or a Husk from above giving you the business, man. It sucks, but it happens. In those moments, it's a lot of fun because it's frustrating in the best possible way. The UI, let's talk about it. Particularly while in-game and using things like the trader menu, that stuff needs a major overhaul as well. It's not some super challenging process, it just feels a little clunky and less user-friendly than previous games. The fans have been telling Tripwire for close to a year that a lot of these changes, characters, and mechanics that they would talk about didn't make a ton of sense for this universe. They have absolutely doubled down and decided not to spend a little more time in the oven anyway. It doesn't matter to me, and I'm sure many of you, if it's a budget thing, extended deadlines that they could no longer extend. I don't know for sure, but I just know that it's unacceptable. The developers at Tripwire could have and should have done better with Killing Floor 3. But guys, Killing Floor 2 was released with less content than Killing Floor 3 and somehow still felt more complete. I have around 900 hours in Killing Floor 2 and look forward to dropping just as many, if not more, into this one. It's just that the developers have a long way to go to keep this community interested for more than a couple of months. Gun to my head right now, if I had to recommend this game to newcomers or longtime fans, I would tell you to wait for a sale. I just feel many of the newcomers will likely end up disappointed, and the other side of that have already made up their mind, so why waste your time and money? I wanted nothing more than to get on here and tell you that this game was a 9 out of 10, a 10 out of 10. It will blow your mind, you're not ready for Killing Floor 3. And it still has some of the best reload animations in all of first-person shooters. I don't want to leave that part out. They did such a great job with that stuff in the second game, the effort here is no different. Even if you're not crazy about the weapon designs themselves, the animation work on a lot of these areas is more than solid. You had 10 years to get this one right though, Tripwire. KF3 doesn't reach the heights of the other two games as it falls short in some areas. And I'm going to ask again, one of the biggest questions, where did the development priorities lie? Endless mode, lack of text chat, better designs of guns and characters, perhaps making the feel of the weapons a bit more punchy. People really like cool character designs. I don't want to point the finger at Concord, but I'm going to point the finger at Concord. It is not the only problem that game had, but people like cool character designs. It can really hurt the experience when you don't have cool looking characters. Poor little Billy, though, he can buy some of that in-game currency and get that Mr. Foster outfit. Good for little Billy. They had cosmetics with Killing Floor 2. I'm not ignoring that fact. I bought a handful myself over the last 10 years. The intentions and priorities weren't completely innocent during that time either. The gameplay, though, the look and feel of the game, the characters, the weapons, those things were never brought into question. And you guessed it, there's already new Steam reviews for KF2 stating that KF3 reminded them how great KF2 is. I don't make the rules, don't shoot the messenger, these kinds of things are happening. That game had the opposite problem on release. Killing Floor 2 had a lack of content. Killing Floor 3 has a lot of content, but some of the soul is gone, and that's a very unfortunate problem to have. Seems they went for a quantity over quality appeal and had the priorities a little screwed up. In a world where there are other $40 games, $50 games that are releasing and they're coming out truly special, there is no excuse for this kind of thing anymore. Killing Floor is your baby. You should treat it as such. And I'll say the fans deserve a little bit more respect too. Stop deleting threads on the Steam forums when they've given you constructive criticism. You guys become emotional because you simply don't like what some people are telling you and you delete good conversations, good feedback. There's no way in hell that I was going to leave those things out of this review because people need to know what 2025 Tripwire is doing out here. Killing Floor 3 is by no means a terrible video game. You could do a lot worse for its current asking price. It's just that you could do a lot better for the same price and less, and that's where we're at with Killing Floor 3. There is a good foundation here, and I think they'll need a year to a year and a half to really get this right. Thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it. More reviews to come very, very soon. I hope you guys liked it, man. Take care. Peace.